This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and my 2 cents. At the box office this weekend, Happy Death Day is just massacring the competition, earning somewhere in the ballpark of $26 million on a $4 to $5 million budget, which is a really great return to say the least. Though what's a little more interesting is that Blade Runner 2049 is underperforming, and I want to look at least 3 or 4 reasons why that's the case. Reason number 1, the original was not a box office success. People seem to forget that the first Blade Runner was not that well received at the box office. In fact, it could be called a flop, to be totally honest. So, how it is that you can create a sequel to a movie that wasn't successful 20 or 30 years later and be surprised it doesn't do well is just kind of odd, frankly. It built its audience over time, developed a cult following on first videotape, then DVD, and so on. It built that following over time. That was not there initially. So why you would think that that following would suddenly magically appear for a movie that it never existed for in the first place is a little strange. So the second reason why Blade Runner 2049 not doing well should not surprise anyone is that the movie is too expensive. I've heard estimates that this movie cost somewhere in the ballpark of $150 to $300 million to produce. Now keep in mind, let's say the production budget were $150 million. Not unheard of. It's actually a medium-sized production budget. But if the advertising and promotion and so on cost another $150 million on top of that, the figure of $300 million is not out of the realm of possibility, to be totally honest. But traditionally, for a movie to be profitable, you want to have a 3-to-1 ratio. In which case, if you're talking about a $150 million box office, you'll have to earn 3 times that amount to be successful. It's a rough metric, but it tends to be accurate. So, Blade Runner is still in theaters. Blade Runner 2049, I should say, is still in theaters. It hasn't completed its run. But it's likely not going to be successful. Like the original movie, it shouldn't be a shock. If they can't bring these movies in cheaper or reduce the promotional costs, if you're not dealing with a sure thing, then you need to reconsider that model. It doesn't make any sense, frankly. The only reason why the Blumhouse model is so effective is that it's minimal cost for maximum returns. $26 million is not a lot of money for a movie to earn, to be totally honest. It's not a lot at all. But when your costs are only $4 or $5 million, that's another matter entirely. And that's something that should have been learned for Blade Runner 2049, which clearly hasn't. Minimal outlaying of costs, maximum returns. Not something that they clearly took into account here. It shouldn't be a shock that this movie is underperforming. Another, and perhaps I think the most important reason why Blade Runner 2049 is underperforming is that the original was not well received, as I already said, but as a movie itself was not that great. It wasn't bad by any stretch, and it was visually striking. Then again, it's a Ridley Scott movie. That should be expected right out the box. But it wasn't the deepest movie on earth. It was very visually appealing, as I said, but there wasn't a lot of meat on the bone, so to speak. It just was not a great movie. It's looked on now as a great movie, but it wasn't necessarily received as a great movie. So why would you expect a sequel to such a thing to be successful? Denis Villeneuve, who directed Sicario, A vastly overrated movie, by the way. Not a bad movie by any stretch, but vastly overrated. Arrival. He's a singular director, very good at what he does. But the thing is, how could anyone, frankly, make this a success? I'm not sure it's possible. The initial reception for Blade Runner was too tepid for any other outcome to happen but what has. Namely, it's underwhelming at the box office. China, I don't think it's been released in China as of yet. It has a release window, but it hasn't been released. So that could help its fortunes immensely. But when all's said and done, it shouldn't be a shock. It is what it is. A sequel to a financial flop that's overpriced and underwhelming at the box office. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and my 2 cents. Peace.